Today we celebrate the Solemnity of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. The devotion to the heart of Jesus has been Christ's unconditional love at its center. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about today's significance is Father Thomas Petri, moral theologian and professor at the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C. He is also co-host of the Church Alive Saturday mornings on EWTN Radio. Father, welcome back. So good to see you again.
It's good to be here again with you, Tracy. I hope you're doing well.
I am. I hope you're doing well, too. Can you tell us a little bit about the origins of this feast and why do we focus on Jesus's heart?
The focus on Jesus's heart is actually very old in Christianity. You can find the church fathers, people like St. Jerome and St. Augustine, writing on the Lord's human heart as a sort of vessel, if you will, of his divine love. His divine love channeled through his humanity, his divine love for all of mankind. But this devotion sort of began through the preaching of St. Bernard of Clairvaux in the 11th century, but took off because of the visions of a nun in France, St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, who actually had mystical visions of Christ making promises to those who were devoted to his sacred heart, his love for all of humanity, and asking that this feast, the feast we celebrate today, be celebrated in the Church's liturgical year.
Father, what should we as Catholics keep in mind as we observe this holy day? And also, how can we draw strength from Jesus' love for humanity amidst all the challenges going on right now?
In the 17th century, the devotion arose through not only St. Margaret Mary Alacoque's visions, but also through the preaching of St. John Eudes, which is still relevant today. St. John Eudes was preaching against a heresy called Jansenism, which suggested that God's love was very narrow, very defined to just a small few. But the Sacred Heart reminds us that we are all the beloved children of God and that Christ came to redeem all of humanity. And so even in these difficult days when we find ourselves often suffering from temptations, just the normal temptations of life, but even today, the temptations of despair or polarization or anger, the Sacred Heart reminds us that these sins too can be forgiven in Christ's love and redemption.
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, but tomorrow we will celebrate the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And I know these two celebrations go hand in hand, and really they're needed now.
They are more than ever. The Immaculate Heart of Mary is a symbol of her maternal love for all of us. And so the Church celebrates the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart at the same time. I'd like to remind everyone that in 2002, St. John Paul II declared that the Sacred Heart, this feast day, should also be a day when people should pray for the holiness, the sanctification of all the priests in the world. People think that priests have an easy time to holiness, but we're tempted too. Just like everybody else, we too need to be reminded at times of God's great love for all of us. So please pray for all of your priests.
No, Father, thank you so much, and we will definitely pray for all of you. We appreciate you coming on. Father Thomas Petri, professor at the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C., and also co-host of the Church Alive Saturday mornings on EWTN Radio. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tracy.